Hello everyone. Welcome back to Britton's Hangout Hour, episode 107. Today I'm here with Chris Ritchey. It's kind of funny. This is the second time this has happened, but today I woke up and I actually got your book, Small Town Problems. So
Sweet.
yeah, came in good. But how are you today?
Oh man, it's been a bit of a day, but hey, it's every day.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny. You're also from Oklahoma, as am I. So it's some Okie dudes today instead of just one. I had to make that joke before someone else beat me to it. So, but really, in all seriousness, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, doing pretty good. This gonna be my first long form interview kind of thing. So done a little bit here and there, but it'll be interesting to see how this goes. I know you're kind of all over the place with where these things can go, which is it's fun to watch those. So it'll be interesting to see what we do.
That's fair. I mean, you've written Small Town Problems. It says on your Twitter account that. Well, how would you describe Small Town Problems for anyone who's... Well, it says sci-fi novella, but aside from that, how would you describe it?
Yeah, it's a first contact story that's set in a small farm town in Oklahoma. That's kind of the gist of it. I was kind of struggle a little bit trying to go too much on that because it is a novella, so it doesn't have necessarily the breadth that a full novel does. So the more you dig into the more plot you reveal, but there's basically a spaceship that crashes near a small farm town, and kind of people start getting involved and figure things out, and they find a survivor, and he kind of gets adopted into the community a bit, and then kind of slowly introduces them more into the community, which brings problems as people start noticing things, and unfortunately one thing leads to another, and the federal government finds out as well because they've already been alerted from other things, and it just kind of goes a bit downhill from there.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like E.T. from the sounds of it, or something in that vein.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. Resident Alien is another kind of comparison for kind of more pop culture TV show kind of things.
Did you say Alien, like the movie?
Resident Alien with Alan Tudyk.
Oh, I haven't seen that, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, I love that guy. He's hilarious, but it's kind of in that vein. Not as funny though. It's there's humor in it, but it's a lot more heartfelt in relation with humorous moments.
I see. Yeah, because isn't Alan Tudyk's character in that trying to take over the world or something?
Man, it's been a little bit since I've watched that, but I think that he's trying to blend in and not necessarily do that, I believe. I haven't watched the last season, but it seems like it was going that way where, his alien overlords were like, hey, you really need to step up your game here and do what you're told you to do. But for the most part, it's him being the town doctor and trying to be a human and fool everybody and live there.
Well, I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty neat talking to another guy from Oklahoma. Oh, did you?
For a second there.
Oh, that was weird. I was just saying, well, it's kind of funny having another guy from Oklahoma here, so that's always nice. You're in Tulsa, right?
Yep. Seems like everybody's on the other side of the state, so it's interesting. I ran into oh my gosh, I'm trying to blank on his name. Lawson. He just did Envoys of War. He's in Tulsa. He did a book release, and I was like, oh man, I thought you were on the other side of the state. Otherwise I would have come. So him and another author probably met up at that, or they knew each other beforehand. But we're going to meet up next month just for a Tulsa authors get together. So that'll be fun trying to connect with people locally.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I have talked to another guy who's from Oklahoma, he's in Oklahoma anyway, Ryan Skeffington.
Yeah, I was going to say him. there's several over on the Oklahoma City side of the state. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I live in Oklahoma City, so I'm like right in the heart of the state.
Yeah.
Right in the middle.
There's eventually we'll overcome the Texas people, because I know that's been a beef of yours.
Yeah, we need more. We need more. I was telling Aaron Gwynn this. Either it was today or yesterday, but I'm like, we need more quality Oklahoma literature. I mean, I like The Outsiders as much as anyone else, but we don't get as much love as Texas or California.
Yeah, you got what country music is big for Okies. Let's see what else can you kind of think of, but that comes to mind.
And more
Native so than anything else. Yeah.
The land rush, all that fun stuff.
Right.
We actually did a mock land rush when I was in school. Did you ever do that?
Oh yeah, almost every year in elementary school.
Yeah, it was an interesting time. I sometimes still dream that I'm in high school. Does that happen to you?
Man, not in a while. I'm probably a little more far removed from high school than you are, though.
That's true. I'm only 23. I don't know how old you are, but
I graduated in 2000.
So. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh man! All right, that's all right. No, it's yeah, no, it's fine. You also proved the tingle was an actual thing, so
that was a fun project.
So you did that. You're friends with John, and you're one of the fans on John's channel. Do you give him money on Patreon?
No, I've been looking into that. I also want to do start putting in videos for the town hall and stuff like that. So I'm kind of contemplating doing that. Just probably maybe another month or so, try to start doing stuff like that a little bit more.
Like it's no, he's I think you also commented on my video, my autism video I did a few months ago. That's where I first heard of you. So yeah, I appreciate the comment about that.
Yeah, both my kids are a little bit on the spectrum. So seeing it's interesting, like once you start getting into that world and living with people that have that you start realizing it's actually very broad. Like the abilities and difficulties that people have, they're not anywhere close to like a monolith. And I don't know if people realize that until they're actually dealing with people.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I've been quite fortunate. My parents have been very supportive of me. And it's most people probably, I'm not trying to like flex here. I'm just saying, most people probably wouldn't suspect it unless I told them, or if they knew me for long enough, they'd probably be like, "Yeah, he's really into routines for some reason."
Yeah.
But yeah. So there you are.
Yeah, it's always those little things, and it's to me, one of the cool things is, at least from what I've experienced, everybody that is on there is really into something, and you can learn a lot about whatever the topic is, which I think is just fascinating, because they're not things that I wanted to necessarily would have thought to dive into, but people just fixate on things a little bit more. And like my son, because he's my oldest son is 15 now, but he could tell you anything you want to know about any Pokemon ever, because that's kind of been a thing of his. But he's also really into. Both my sons are pretty avid readers. My oldest son has devoured the Percy Jackson series and anything by Rick Riordan. That's been a big thing. He's reread those several times. Anything in Greek mythology, he went into more Greek mythology in general. So he's learned all about the gods, and which, if you know anything about Greek myth it's like that can get dicey like real quick.
I'm more of a Norse guy personally. If we're speaking about mythologies.
Oh no, yeah, Norse is pretty cool too.
I mean, I just think the Greek gods are a bunch of freaking prima donnas. They're just like always fighting and
a lot of pettiness.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not saying the Norse gods aren't petty at all. I'm just saying that, at least there's like Vikings and weird prophecies and stuff and like hanging yourself off a tree and taking your eye out for like knowledge. Like that's cool to me for some reason.
Yeah, it's a different level for sure.
I mean, there's some fun stuff in Greek myths too. I remember reading comic versions of them when I was younger. But yeah, no, they're always squabbling or banging people or it's like, good lord, these are
or turning into animals and banging people.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I was just about to say that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if I really got into it before or after, but I started taking Latin in high school.
Well, the Romans did rip off the Greek gods, so I mean,
yes,
they just added their own names to it
change a little bit aspects, combine some things, change names, but like by and large, they're pretty much the same. I get to go to Italy in my senior year with the Latin club, so that was pretty cool. Got to go to like Pompeii and then like all over Italy. So that was really, really something. And so maybe that's like more my appreciation of that particular pantheon over others, is just my exposure to it. But
I mean, fair enough. I mean, I'm sure it would be neat if I ever went to, where's a popular Norse myth? Scandinavia or something. See some of the landscapes they've talked. I've seen like Philip Chase has been over there. I'm like, dang, need to do that at some point. Or England. Well, I need to read more.
Yeah, England's pretty cool. Like Stonehenge. I went back in, what year was that? 2005. I went to England with my friend who is Welsh. So we spent a lot of time over in Wales, but also he had family over in England. So we traveled a little bit over there and got to see Stonehenge in person. It's smaller than you think, which was like the biggest thing to me. Because you, like in movies or anything like that, you see people stand next to it or whatever, and it's like huge. These huge rocks. Yeah, I mean they're big, but they're not as big as they're portrayed. It seems like.
So, do you think aliens made Stonehenge? I'll take that as a no.
No, I don't think so. There's.
I think I think it was like a pagan thing. If I just a mass stretch guess of what it is, but sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, I agree with that. It's totally pagan. I think it's interesting the amount of knowledge we've lost over the years to do things, and it's interesting how sometimes we find little pockets of it, like how they move these massive things, and it's like we would never, in our current state, would never have thought to do that. But we learn these things like building the pyramids and moving large stones like that, Easter Island, like all these little things where we learn little nuggets through discovery over time where we thought that was never possible. So it's just so fascinating to understand that lost knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not much of an archaeologist. It's more Christopher Navo is an archaeologist. I do like history.
Wait to read his book. Yeah.
Wait, is it out yet? I haven't really.
It's not. No, he's still working on it. But
there's so many booktubers. I'm really bad at keeping up with them all. So, Christopher, if you watch this, sorry, man, I haven't watched your videos in a while. But
I don't know if he's putting it out for a little while, other than some group meetings. Like, is he part of the Illuminati?
No, but he has done some stuff with Philip and John. I've seen. I think he's reading. I think he's reading the Ryan Cahill or Cahill or however you pronounce that dude's name.
I knew it was one of those groups. I forgot which one.
Guy's Irish,
and I haven't watched those yet because I don't want to get spoiled.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm. I don't. Yeah. You know, I'm kind of tired of dragons, to be honest with you. But I am kind of on a Game of Thrones kick right now, so we can all be hypocrites sometimes. I'm fine with dragons, but I don't know.
Yeah.
They're like
Now,
chosen ones. I'm like, look, you can do them well, but I'm just kind of bored with it a little bit.
yeah. Do you prefer a beast dragon or like a one that's sentient and talking and stuff like that?
I never really had much preference for. I do like I do like the kind of Game of Thrones. They're basically big animals.
Okay. I
But
haven't watched Game of Thrones.
oh, you haven't watched Game of Thrones or read it?
No.
Okay, then you have no idea what I'm talking about. Well, in Game of Thrones, they're basically like big animals. So
Okay. I know some things about it enough to I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm too interested in that, which is odd because it's like right in my wheelhouse of what I should enjoy. I tried watching like the first episode years ago, and it's just like, okay, I guess.
But I
Then I'm
mean,
learning out.
I also like Schmaug, and there's a show called
Mhm.
Legend of Vox Machina that the
Yeah,
main antagonists the last couple seasons are super intelligent, angry dragons who want to destroy the world. So I mean, I'm fine with
yeah,
talking dragons too.
yeah. Of course, like Dragonheart growing up was a big movie growing up, and then you also had like Aragon adaptations
Yeah.
that were they're intelligent creatures, which I always kind of found more interesting because you've got ancient knowledge that could be passed on like bloodlines and things like that.
Oh,
I don't know if you've gotten into uh, the Elmerian saga by Corey Ratliff. Is it Ratliff?
I've heard that guy's
Um,
name. I haven't heard of that
yeah.
series.
Well, the Elmerian saga is I think the name of the saga. I've read the first book so far, and the dragon in that is like that. It's got um, or the dragons, I guess, but there's only one found so far in the first book. But it passes knowledge by bloodline,
Mm.
and it can go back the entire lineage. And there's some lore drops in there that are awesome. Towards the end, that I had like set the book down and like, okay, what are the implications of this? I can't wait to see where it goes. And that's I think he's finishing up on that series here pretty soon, so I'll catch up on all that. But uh, that's definitely one to check out. I think for dragon stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was kind of funny. I was talking with Philip Chase. This was like a month ago. We were talking about his Dan books. I don't know if you haven't. I don't know if you've read them.
Not yet.
I will say I'm gonna be as vague as possible, but there is a talking dragon in it. So I mean, there you go. There you go. So I'm sorry, I've just ruined that for you, but it's fine. It's not that big of a spoiler. That was pretty neat. But yeah, I mean, I don't really like. I don't know. I like more like if you're talking like monsters. I like werewolves.
Yeah.
Werewolves are pretty cool.
Yeah, wolves are my thing. I've got a tattoo of a wolf on my back. So, always love wolves.
Yeah, me too. I really them and like primates / apes. I love
Mm.
them. Just I don't know why. One
Yeah,
of my favorite when I'd go to the zoo when I was a kid. My favorite thing I'd go to the primate area and just watch them.
yeah, something. Yeah, it's just like humanoid almost, but it's not. So there's like that kind of slight connection, but also in fascination of all the differences. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's neat. They're very human-like, and they even think that we share a certain DNA. I mean, I don't know. I'm not much of a science guy, but
Yeah, and I think the more they dive into that, they realize it's not really that big of a sharing of DNA. There's a certain amount of shared DNA because we're all like created by the same creator. That my obviously my beliefs, but um, so there's shared design but different purposes.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's a yeah, it's interesting how that works. You know, but yeah, I enjoy those. But yes, I also like wolves a lot because I don't know. I like werewolves a lot. I don't know. I just
Yeah.
Like, I've read like some, because it's kind of interesting. I've read a bit like the history of like werewolf stories, and like they don't really know where it kind of came from. Like some of it, there's this thing in France called the Beast of Goa. I can't pronounce the name. Let me look it up. See if I can figure out how to pronounce this damn thing.
Yeah. And just evolution of those different mythos for those creatures that we've come to know and love, and in common monster cultures is fascinating too. I love reading all about that. Like just going back on vampires, or even Frankenstein from John's video the other day.
Yeah, he's a big vampire guy. I'm always, me and him are
Yeah.
always kind of playfully arguing about vampires, werewolves, vampires. So there's always that. Though he does agree with me. We need more like proper good werewolf content, because a lot of it's really bad nowadays.
Yeah, some of it is like they're just mindless beasts when they're in their wolf form, and like, okay, were they ever intelligent creatures, or they're always just massively turn into beasts whenever they do that? And then what's the purpose beyond turning into a beast?
Yeah, it's
like
oh.
I was gonna say, if we're kind of delving into different lycanthropy, like in D&D, depending on the type of creature and alignment and how much you fight the nature of the beast that bit you, for wherever that is, it determines like how you are in your altered form, which I think is an interesting kind of dynamic. I don't know how far that goes back in the D&D lore, but I know it's like the current edition kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting, kind of going back to dragons a little bit. I was talking with Philip Chase about Prophet of Edan, because that's the one with all the dragons. I was like, oh, so like, did you get that from D&D? And he's like, oh, well, I was kind of pulling from like legends, and D&D was probably in the back of my mind because he did play it when he was younger, but he talked about Smaug, and I just kind of smacked myself. I was like, oh man, I forgot about that. I forgot D&D didn't invent talking dragons. Dang it. That was just the first thing that came to my mind. Because I was talking to some friends about the D&D movie, and they liked it, but they had a minor complaint that the dragon wasn't talking in the movie, because like dragons in D&D generally can talk and are smart and are really annoying and mean. Very arrogant dragons. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, that is interesting. They went that way with that one, but I know the one in the movie was like gluttonous and lazy, and just kept getting fed and used as a furnace for the whole city or what have you.
Oh.
So it could have just been addled over time and not
just didn't
interacted with, I guess.
Anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like food.
Yeah, no, I'll admit I haven't seen the D&D movie yet, but I've heard it's actually pretty good.
Oh yeah, it's great. I love that. I saw it with my D&D group when it came out, and then my wife was like, "Well, I guess you don't want to go see with the kids and us." Then I'm like, "No, I'll go see it again." So I saw it twice in the theaters. It was a lot more entertaining than I was expecting. It's really a great flick. It's not like mind altering or anything like that, but it's just enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's what I've heard as well. I haven't though I did watch The Legend of Vox Machina, which crap, the new episodes came out today, so I'm probably gonna see if I can watch that after this. But
yeah, I've been keeping up with that too.
That surprised me, because I was like, because I'll admit, I didn't really, I had heard of Critical Role, but I didn't really know. I thought it was just like where voice actors just kind of play D&D and are having fun. And okay, yeah, it is that. But like, I watched season 1 and I was just flabbergasted by how like well written it was. So I was like, oh my god, dude, like this is great. Like, where was this at? Like, I just watched it just out of boredom, and I was hooked. Yeah,
I've watched all the live plays for Critical Role. I caught on to them a little bit late, but up to current episodes here for a little while now. They do a really good job of throwing everything together and doing a great deal of yes-anding, for improv. And even at the table, they weave together a pretty good story. And then to see that translate onto the TV show, see the differences and kind of things that they've chosen to do, it's awesome. I think they just thrown together such a great
voice cast too.
Boiling down. Oh yeah.
I mean, aside from the main gang, like the voice casting's really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Even when you get down, even to the main people, you like look at what they've done for voiceover work. It's like, I know that guy from there and there and there. They've been doing this for years. And then bring in other people, man, they just really fleshed this out to something it's really great, I think.
Yeah, no, and it also introduced me to Liam O'Brien and who. Did you ever watch Oz? You know of Oz? Have you ever heard of it?
Like the prison show, or
the prison show.
I know about it, but I've never watched it.
I was about to say, he kind of resembles the main character of that show, Beecher. So I thought that was kind of funny. But anyway, I enjoy the show a lot. I've tried, going through the live plays. I just don't have the patience for it. I can't sit through it. Nothing. They're great at what they do. It's just like, it's
definitely one of those background shows. For the most part, I don't sit there and I just can't sit there and watch it. I've always got to be doing something. So like chores on the weekend or what have you, it's sitting there playing, mostly listening to it. But every once in a while, you got to rewind it and look at the facial expressions for reactions and things like that. And I think they do recaps as well on their YouTube channel. But it's something to do.
I'm a big world building nut, and I really love how they do it in the live plays more than the show, because the show. The show you kind of can show a lot more, but I'm really impressed with how they do it in the live plays, because it's just them sitting there doing the the motions.
Yeah.
It's really.
Do you play D&D or anything, or any kind of tabletop?
I do. I haven't played in a while because some of the games I've been doing have ended. So I'm kind of I did one for like 4 years, and I'm like, I'm gonna take a break for a while after that one, because the guy who ran it, I love the guy. I won't name him here, but he's like, we're gonna do another one. I'm like nothing, because he can be a little sensitive, but I'm like, hey. I'm just going to step back for a little bit. You didn't do nothing wrong. I'm just stepping back for a little bit. So I've ran a game, which didn't go great. And I'm hoping to run another one, which is stalled because nothing for me has gone to plan this year. So here we are.
That sucks. Yeah.
Like reading's been real slow. Writing's been slow. It's been a slow year. I've had other things sucking up my time. So there you go.
Yeah. Let's see. I guess just about 3 years ago, I walked into the game store and some people were playing, and they were doing like a one shot because they had some people missing. Just sat down and asked if I could play along, and they let me in. And 3 years later, we wrapped up that campaign. We had to rush the end of it, which kind of sucks. The DM's also in the National Guard, and he's going on an 18-month deployment.
Oh my God.
So yeah. So man, there's so much like missed story we had, but we went ahead and did just like ran the gamut a little bit over a couple sessions to finish it out, and did multiple levels up, and ended up doing a level 20 last session, which nobody died in magically. And one of the things I loved about him is he didn't pull punches. There was many times where we were going to lose somebody, but by like the sheer luck of rolls, we didn't. So,
yeah, luckily the DMs I've played with they generally don't Well, they like putting us in danger, but they don't really like they. I guess it's maybe they don't want to go through the hassle of killing off a character because you have to create another one.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
unless it's like absolutely necessary anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Like up until a month ago, he had never been like he just let us do he just let us go into combat and stuff like that. But a month ago we had a session where it was like, okay guys, above table, are you sure that you want to go do this?
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, oh crap. What did we just do? we lost one person in that. But
so.
my guy is a totem barbarian orc, and one of the feats is I get to every time I go down to 0 hit points, I can roll a Constitution saving throw to save up, and I did that like 5 times, and he had 2 dragons there on the other side of the field there that I was trying to like court to our side a bit, and we had been over the entire fight. And the general he had us fighting was to come back to life. So like one last thing I said was to the dragon was do you want to follow somebody who will just die every time just to come back, or someone that will never die? And they like got me out of there at the last second. But there's so many cool like little moments you can do that are just facilitated by somebody who knows how the game is played and how to have intelligent boss battles and have everybody be their own kind of entity with their own purposes. And man, I can't wait for him to get back and play another game with them.
Yeah, he sounds like a good DM.
Yeah, and he's probably closer to your age. I think he's mid-20s at best.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And he just kind of, I think he said this campaign is like the first one he started playing a DM because he's just like, I just wanted to play, and nobody was running a game, so I just kind of volunteered, and then people started showing up.
Fair enough. Yeah, I've only ran one game, and there were a lot of setbacks during that campaign, but I had fun doing it. So
yeah, I've tried to run a little bit a home game too for my kids. The first time I tried to run it, it didn't really go too well because both my kids, or especially my older son, just can't sit still. And so that game kind of got abandoned, but my youngest son still wanted to play. So we went 20 years in the future because he wanted to play in the same setting and have his characters from the first game show up. So I already kind of knew the path of the potential where that game could go. So I played it out like, all that had been done. But I also didn't want him to just call in level 20 freaking paladins and stuff like that on the whim. So they were old and couldn't do much by then, but they were still kind of facilitators and people who could sponsor things and kind of help guide them a little bit.
So they became NPCs?
Yeah. And like one of them, like my character from that game, because I know some people have issues about DM PCs, but depending on how you do it, like if they're fully there to facilitate and have everybody else take the lead, and you're just kind of there to help any kind of skill sets that might be missing, especially first time playing, I don't know what we're going to run into and how to adjust on the fly for certain activities. So I had a character that filled the gap a bit. But I had him be he was an orphan rogue background, but he ended up running orphanages in all the major cities with all the gold that he had gotten over the campaigns. So had that aspect of it.
So he was like a bad character?
Yeah. Oh no, he ran orphanages.
Oh,
like he ended up having a family, and all his extended family went out and like ran orphanages and for all the underprivileged kids and stuff like that in the major cities around the coast.
Oh, I thought you said he burned them. Sorry.
Oh no. That would be bad.
I was like, geez, man, just
No,
That's some straight up mustache twirling type of stuff, man. Just burn down an orphanage and kicking puppies,
no,
you know? Like, jeez, man.
no, that would be a different character. We did do an evil one shot a little bit ago with this DM, and I did play a character like that. That was fun. Which unbeknownst to us, like the entity we released in that evil one shot was the big bad of the main campaign. So he like pulled that little switcheroo on us, like, you son of a gun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then he had my character was one that lived from that evil one shot because the other guy's character died, and he ended up having them come out and be a part of the final battle too. And I was like, man, oh, that's a tough character too. So, but it was a lot of fun.
So did your evil character come back in another context?
Well, they just came back. It was like he did a kind of a gauntlet running up to the final bad guy, and they were just part of that gauntlet with other people. And he wanted me to, during that evil one shot, he asked if I would playtest the World Tree or one of the barbarians from the 2024 rules, and I did the World Tree barbarian, which at their capstone feat they can teleport around the battlefield like up to like 90 feet every round, and do a bunch of other cool stuff with just the different feats that they have in that class. And I was like, man, that's a lot of fun. I wouldn't mind playing that again. So when he brought her out from behind a door, I'm like, oh man, just because we were already kind of having a tough time, and then to bring her out, because I had her be kind of a Heath Ledger type Joker version.
Mm-hmm.
So she completely demented, like had traveled around the world and seen that like her backstory was like travel around the world and seeing that like doesn't matter where you go, power corrupts, so let's just burn it all down kind of mentality and start over. Mm-hmm. So that's why she was doing her thing with the evil campaign. But man, just she could bring people in close with her and keep them from moving. So your glass cannon wizard just swiped up next to the barbarian. That's not good. And then just teleporting around. You can't get anywhere that's safe behind cover or anything like that. And she just decimates, especially with some of the stuff he added in because she leveled up too. You know. Oh man, it was a blast.
So how'd you guys beat her?
Eventually just kind of whittled down enough and tried to play a little bit smarter. Our wizard did really good at battlefield control. That was like his specialty. He didn't do much in the way of damage. He had a couple high level damage spells eventually, but most of it was battlefield control, and that helped a ton. Like putting slow on people and hold person helped, and then just various other things we did to take away their ability to defend themselves, and just try to play smartly instead of just go full bore. But it took a while. Eventually, just whittled down.
Fair enough. I mean, going back to writing, so you've written Small Town Problems. I like to ask these, but like, what are some of your favorite books and like stuff that inspired you to start writing?
Man, that's always a tough question. Like, I grew up. My favorite author growing up was Jack London. I loved the rugged, adventurous kind of story. A young guy going out there and just finding his place in the world and just doing what he can to conquer it and prove himself. And so that kind of mentality, I think, has always kind of been in the background. I've always enjoyed telling little stories as well. I remember back in like second grade, there was a little writing project where we authored and illustrated a little book, and I did about a dog. I don't remember the story of it, but I remember it was about a little dog. And then like fifth grade, I remember we were given a slideshow and told to write little prompts for each part of the slideshow, and I was the only one that like wrote a story that happened in the scene that continued throughout the entire thing. And I remember getting kind of praise from that from my teachers, like, this is so unique and good and blah blah blah. And just things like that. It was like, oh, maybe I enjoy this and I'm good at it. So always did little things like that. And then like a 98, 99 time frame, I was a co-webmaster, well, eventually a co-webmaster of a Star Wars fan site. But it was the internet forums on there, and just getting on there and getting to know people. My buddy dragged me on to, he was on there for, I don't know how long, but he dragged me on there. He's like, hey, there's a jerk on there. If you could like come help me kind of like teach me a lesson. So we kind of went back and forth, that guy. And that guy was a real jerk, but he was also stupid because his password and his username were the same. And we figured that out eventually. And it just, yeah, there's some stuff on there to make him, repost as him to make himself look like an idiot and what have you. But anyway, eventually made some good friends on there. Eventually got the guy that was a webmaster wanted to sell it. And this is like right before the prequels were coming out. So my friend got it, and then enlisted some of us to be co-webmasters. We built it up, and we just kind of started with little stories, just interacting. And I'm trying to remember exactly how it started, but myself and then one person who her username was Sailor Coruscant, because she was a Sailor Moon fan and also Star Wars, so she blended the two. She did something, and then my online character did something to her, and it just kind of spawned from there. And we ended up writing a like 5 or 7 co-authors book that was a Star Wars Sailor Moon crossover. And man, it's awesome. It's actually it's called Domus Prime. I've got one of the authors pulled it off and actually formatted it into a book. I've got that hosted on my website. And then there's like an alternate ending to that. And then it went into a second book, but some stuff happened with losing the website, and we lost like all of that forever, which sucks. But that was like my first real major project in writing. I did some creative writing in high school for a class, but that was more academic, and I don't know how to describe it. Academic creative writing is a different beast than just creative writing.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm taking a creative writing class right now, and yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah. Like, okay, here's all the rules, but they don't necessarily apply when you actually get out into the world. Although there's a lot of things that, like when you get an editor, you realize, man, there's a reason people are paid to do that. Because there's a lot of things that you just don't know about the English language unless you are really studied in it. I'm just thinking back to all the little edits and notes and things like that from the editor.
Yeah, luckily my teacher is okay with us experimenting, and he likes science fiction and fantasy, so that's always a bonus. Yeah,
that's good.
Gonna be doing another class, I think, in a semester called Writing the Weird. I'm like, I want to try that out. So we'll see how that goes.
That's cool. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of series that I can think of where people are like, the weirder it gets, the better it gets. Mm-hmm. And if that's kind of, I think that's also kind of the mindset of what Ray Bradbury did. I don't know if you've read a lot of his or not, but
I love Ray Bradbury.
His Zen and Art Writing book, read that not too long ago, really kind of expanded on that and like made me feel like, okay, I'm not a weirdo for running with an idea like he's describing here, and he just kind of talks about embracing it and not letting go and just continuously going after those aspects and those things. Was really a great book. I definitely suggest that for anybody that's an aspiring author to have that as like a touchstone.
Yeah, I'll admit I haven't read that book from Bradbury. I've read several of his short stories. I've read The Martian Chronicles and Something Wicked This Way Comes and Fahrenheit 451. All very good stuff. I enjoy him a lot.
Yeah, I'm trying to get more into him. I did Fahrenheit 451 way back in the day, and then I've read a few short stories here lately. October Country. Did Dandelion Wine last month.
Haven't read those, but
oh my gosh, Dandelion Wine is so good.
I'll have to give that a look. Doesn't that take place in the same world as Something Wicked This Way Comes?
I am not sure about that. Oh. It all takes place in the same town. They're interconnected short stories that kind of span different genre, but at the core of it is a coming-of-age story for a couple of brothers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you like doing his fix-up novels, that's for sure. Which, for those who don't know, it's when you get a bunch of short stories together and try to turn it into a novel. So there you go. I think
he did really well on that aspect of it. It really blended together, I think, really well.
But yeah, he's very good. He's one of my favorite writers for sure. I want to read more by him. I actually have The Illustrated Man in my bedroom. I just haven't read it yet.
Yeah, that's on my list too. I think I'll probably get to that. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of my reading plan, but it'll come up here pretty soon.
Fair enough. Yeah. I need to. One of my my favorite book I've read this year is still Kindred. So, yeah, I read it with a friend. Vampire? What?
Is that vampire?
Kindred?
Or something else? Kindred?
No, it does not have vampires, though the same author wrote a book called Fledgling, which I think is about vampires. I could be mistaken. If anyone is a fan of Octavia Butler, let me know if I'm onto something. If you got it.
Oh. Yeah, I've got her books on my list. That's right. Trying to remember.
I did consider reading Parable of the Sower because it takes place in 2024. I just didn't get around to it. It's been a slow reading year, you know. I read there've been a couple of really good ones I read. I read The Lonesome Dove in July, which was really good. So, I think it was in July, yeah. But yeah, no, a lot of things haven't really gone to plan because, you know, it's just college, man. It takes up a lot of your time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm up to 45 books, I think, for the year.
Oh, wow.
So, but I'm trying to wrap up some series for the end of this year because I want to do January.
Jenny Words. Yeah.
Yeah, Jenny Words. I want to do that in January, so I'm trying to wrap up some things so I can feel a little bit more responsible, you know, considering my TBR going into it. So I've got the first Far Seer trilogy I'm trying to wrap up. I'm towards the end of book 2 right now. Then I'll do the third book probably next month. Also trying to wrap up the Bobby verse. Those are just fun reads and they're short.
Yes, I've heard of this Bobby verse. I think Daniel Greene's a fan of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and aren't those like sci-fi books?
Yeah, they're sci-fi, and they're pop culture enough, but they're not. I don't think they're like too out there, but they're humorous and pop culture-y, and this guy gets basically turned into an AI and is, you know, put into commission far in the future for that program, and it kind of goes from there.
Is his name
trying
Bob?
To save humanity and all that. Bob.
Is his name Bob?
Yeah.
Of course. That's why it's called Bobby verse.
Yeah. But there's tons of geek references all over the place, and it's fun to, you know, have a little fan service going on there for that culture and seeing it put into place. And it's a really fun series.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I don't know why I'm yawning today. I woke up at a pretty good time. Anyway, yeah, no, I enjoy. I also really enjoy Star Wars. It's one of the first things I remember watching growing up. I don't know if I want to go down that rabbit hole though, because it's very dark and deep.
Yeah,
I
man.
did that with T from an Erudite Adventure, and it just went on for the rest of the conversation. So I'm like, I like talking about Star Wars, but
Yeah,
it's like it's a rabbit hole, as they like to say.
yeah. And then you get down to the path of, man, I really wish they wouldn't have done what they're doing now.
Yeah, no, that's
uh,
though I like
I know.
I like the Clone Wars and
mm,
Star Wars Rebels. A lot of the animated
mm,
stuff's really good.
Yes, yeah, they did a great
A
job with
lot
the
of people
animated
are
stuff.
kind of dismissive of it, but like Clone Wars is great. I mean, there's a couple of
Oh yeah,
episodes, but there's not any bad episodes.
mm-hmm. 100% agree. They did a phenomenal job with the animated stuff.
And they actually made the prequels work, which is even more
Mhm.
astounding,
Yeah,
Where it's actually like, oh, this makes more sense now. Okay. Maybe it should have been a television
yeah,
series. But I digress.
yeah.
Um I could start ranting about how hard can it be to make a good Star Wars film, but again, trying to
Mhm.
keep off of that for the
Well,
moment.
well, I know whenever. Well, just diving on just a little bit. Whenever they're hinting at like doing the 7, 8, 9, whenever they were hinting at doing any more movies, I kept telling people, man, it would be awesome if they went back and did the Sith Wars and the establishment of the Rule of Two as
Mm-hmm.
like a trilogy. That would be a phenomenal like
Are you talking about
story
like
arc.
the Darth Bane
Yeah,
stuff? Oh
yeah,
yeah. No, yeah, I have a soft spot for the Thrawn trilogy,
yes.
and I'm kind of irritated that they didn't do that for the 3 movies,
That
but
would have. Yeah,
I
that would
am
have been
glad
like
they
my
put
second choice.
I am glad they put him in the canon now, so it's like
Mhm.
he's a real character now. It's not just like, oh man. Like he was really good in Rebels, and
Mhm.
Ahsoka I thought was okay, but he was really great in it.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's a great character. Really is. I haven't read the books yet. I only know it. I've read some like extended canon stuff, but not like the books proper. That's something I want to get into in the future. But um,
Oh, they're really good. Like
yeah,
what's even more impressive, he's not like a Jedi or anything. He's just a
Mhm.
really smart, well, he's not a criminal, but he's a really smart admiral who knows what he's
Mhm.
doing.
Yeah, strategically minded, like nobody's business.
Oh my god, yes. He's not Darth Vader, but he's
Mhm.
very close. Like
Yeah,
he is a pain to have as an enemy, or I should say, he's
yeah,
not someone you want as an enemy.
yeah. Plays a long game and knows how to set it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Though, yeah. Though I guess since the main actors were getting older, it would be kind of hard to explain how Thrawn would be doing his thing.
Yeah.
Also, The Mandalorian was pretty good.
Yes. Yeah, that was pretty
those
good.
those first 2
Enjoyed
seasons
that.
were anyway. I didn't watch the third
Mhm.
one because it's like I watched those Boba Fett episodes. I'm like,
Mhm.
why should I care anymore? They're reunited now. Like, just
Yeah.
and then people were like, oh, season 3 is just meddling. I'm like, oh, yeah, knew it. It's just
Yeah,
anyway.
they're trying to figure out what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened in the direction of things that were going, but somebody took over the helm and they need to right that ship again.
Yeah, no, it's just
I haven't
yeah.
even bothered with the Acolyte.
Yeah, me neither. Though I heard Darth Plagueis is in it for like a minute. I've kind of
Yeah,
checked
but
out at Star Wars at the moment. I mean, I've read some
yeah,
of like the Marvel comics are actually pretty good. I read some of the Marvel comics they did a few years ago.
Mhm.
Very good stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Seems like anything recent is rather.
I'm taking a big break from Star Wars at the moment. I love her, I still do, but I just
Yeah.
we just need to. It's
Yeah,
just
I'll go revisit all the books I haven't read.
yeah, be like I'll reread the Thrawn books. Thanks, Though, like, if I ever wrote anything for like a mainstream thing, I would definitely, I would love to do Star Wars because it's such a big world,
Mhm.
and I'd love to play in it. Maybe one
Oh
day.
yeah,
Maybe
man. There's
one day.
tons of stories you could do.
And that's the frustrating thing. I'm like, this is a big universe, and you're not doing anything with it. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going a little too far into the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's I enjoy it a lot. Also, read the Thrawn books. Anyone who has watched this far, really good. But yeah, no, it's a it's anyway. What are some other books you enjoy?
Oh man, I'm a big Dumas fan. Three Musketeers is one of my all-time favorites. Of course, Count of Monte Cristo. Read that last year as well, but that's another like foundational book I think for me. As far as like sci-fi, like a book I read a long time ago that got me was like the Timeline Wars. It's a combination. It's a trilogy of books, but it's like an alternate history, time travel-y kind of thing. It's really interesting how it blends like that together. Like you'll end up getting George Washington in there and stuff like that, and Patton, and it's I had a blast with that a number of years ago. Most of my influences though have been like other media, just television and movies. As far as that's concerned, I had a huge gap of time where I didn't really read much at all, which is annoying. I kick myself every day for it. So I'm trying to catch up, and then I'm behind in all the new stuff.
Yeah, I was real sporadic with my reading for a long time before I finally kind of got into the rhythm of it. And I'm like, oh, this works. This doesn't. Okay, yeah. Well.
Yeah.
But I kind of
being sporadic better than do nothing.
Yeah, yeah. It's and then there's sometimes books that just take a minute to get into, or and I'm not really a big fan of DNFing, so I'm like I'm trucking through this and.
Yeah, I think.
But if
I think
I'll
I've only
occasionally
DNF
put a
like two
book
books.
down, but that's for later, not right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I'm trying to think of like other books that I read like a long time ago. I know like books that are currently influencing me are like Sun Eater Saga or Sun Eater series. Just like how Christopher Rock is extrapolating history over time is fascinating. And it's really kind of changing my mind on future projects and how like I want to tackle that because I like how things are done. That's a big thing to do as well. Like as I'm currently reading, it's like it's not just the stories they're telling; it's how they're telling it. How are they getting you invested into characters? How are they getting you to? How are they just the different ways in which you're telling the story to get different points across? Sometimes the same points, but just in different ways. Across all the authors, and it's fascinating. Like to see that and figure out, okay, how do I want to differentiate myself, but have those same, hows in my book or my series books and things like that I want to do.
Yeah, Rockio's interesting. I'm thinking about trying him, but I've seen like interviews with the guy, and he seems like a really interesting guy to talk to. So
yeah, he is.
I'm definitely not against having him on my show at some point. But I make no promises on if I'll like his books.
Yeah, they're definitely a little bit to get into, but just the fact that it's all first person narrative, and you've got to rely on that narrator and figure out, okay, is he reliable or how is he telling things? You feel like he's being truthful, but perhaps there's some things maybe later on we'll figure out, okay, maybe not so much. There's a few aspects that where like jumps into the future of like, well, at this time we didn't know this, but in the future we'll know this about this guy. I don't really like care for those little asides because it's so odd. But he is telling the story, or his character is telling the story from the future and basically writing, things down.
Yeah, unreliable narrator books are always. I mean, I won't say I don't like them because one of my favorite books is Lolita, which is like the unreliable narrator book. And one of my favorite concurrent fantasy novels is Black Leopard, Red Wolf, which also has an unreliable narrator. So I mean, I'm fine with it, but I don't mind the genre or whatever you want to call that narration style, but it can easily get annoying when the author tries to get cute with it. So that's why I'm always kind of wary with books like that. So we'll see.
Yeah. Can you give me a second to go grab a power cable? I didn't realize my battery was going to run out so low.
Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, I'll just cut this out when I'm editing it.
All right, give me a second.
All right.
Good.
All right. We're back.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've read too many unreliable narrator books. That's something I'd like to check out, but
I've read a couple.
It's like I'm not even. Yeah, I know that could be really tough to pull off because you got to get your audience to really buy into that. But I'm not sure if Rocky was doing an unreliable narrator. Kind of the thing as well. We got to figure out over time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm actually reading Gene Wolfe's hold on, let me get it here, The Wizard Knight, which is his fantasy duology, and he's kind of doing that whole unreliable narrator thing, where like sometimes he withholds information, and sometimes he's kind of
Yeah, that's another author I want to get into. There's so many.
Yeah, I read The Land Across from him a few years ago, and I didn't really like it. And then I started The Wizard Knight, and I like it more, but I'm still kind of frustrated with it. So, I mean, I hope you enjoy it, but I don't know. Maybe Wolf's not a writer for me at the moment. I hope it picks up, but I mean, it's fine. It's like a straightforward story. It wasn't like The Land Across where I was like, what the hell is going on? But, like the pacing is really like jerks. It's very jerky, as I like to call it. So it just kind of goes from scene to scene. You're like, what the fuck is going on? Pardon my French, but it's just like, maybe the Gene Wolfe fans can help me out. But I'm about looking some stuff up about it. But we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like the jerking around, if it's not flowed in properly, or it just can be so disjarring and kind of remove you from the thing. Like I read Gunmetal Gods here a couple years ago, and I had to keep checking back to which person's point of view I was reading, because they're similar, but they're like such different characters, but they're written. I don't know, it just didn't really differentiate enough, and you're jumping from one thing to another, and I don't know. They got to differentiate more if you're going to jump POVs like that.
That's why I like writing in third person limited. You know, it gives you it gives you a lot of wiggle room, I feel.
Yes.
Though I will say about the Wizard, I mean, it's not all bad. I mean, you know, I really love the design of the book.
Mm-hmm.
I like medieval paintings. I mean, I'll admit the fantasy I'm writing is not set in the medieval period, but I love like medieval paintings. You know, if you know what I'm talking about.
Oh
And
yeah.
just, you know, some of the illustrations in here, like that, I like that. So there you go. I like that. You know, some fun stuff in there. We'll see.
Yeah. There's definitely a different kind of story you have to tell if you're not in third person. So like Small Town Problems is a first person POV.
Wait, what is?
My book is a first person POV.
Oh.
Um, um, and I think it works for that story, but you kind of also can realize I can't really get too much into like my authorial voice because I'm writing from the point of view of this character.
Mm-hmm.
So writing the second one right now, and then I think in the future it's mainly going to be third person. That way I can really like establish what my voice is and try to sort that out.
I mean, like, are there other things you would like to do? Like, I mean, book wise, that you would like to write?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, aside from this, I mean, I'm sure it's yes, but like, are there any ideas you're like, I want to do that sometime soon?
Oh yeah. After I finish this series, my next book's gonna be a cozy fantasy.
Huh.
It kind of came about because you know who Jackson Dickert is, right?
That name sounds familiar.
He has on his YouTube channel. He does Between Two Ferns. He does stuff with Daniel Greene sometimes as well.
That's right. Yes.
So
yeah.
there was one Between Two Ferns episode where he was interviewing Baltree, who did the Legends and Lattes.
Mm-hmm.
And you start throwing out other alliterative titles. And I made a comment, oh man, that one sounds like actually like a really good title. And Jackson responded with, well, if you write it, I'll do the forward. So I came back in like a few more minutes with like, okay, do you want to go with this story idea or this story idea? And he's like, wow, that was really quick. Let's do this one. All right, cool. So I've already got like a bunch of notes for that. I'm going to set that, and that's going to be set in a whole other world that I've already kind of got. That's kind of D&D inspired.
Huh.
That's going to have a prequel trilogy and then a sequel trilogy already. I know what I'm going to do for that, just depending which order I want to do it in. And I want to go ahead and do this cozy fantasy first. It's kind of set at the in between ages, because into the first trilogy basically ends an age, like second age, and then third age of the country kind of goes into the second series. So this is kind of cozy fantasy is going to be set in between those time periods to kind of explore that and how people are getting by and doing things. So I've really got to study up on cozy fantasies over the next year to make sure I get all the aspects right. I know certain things that you got to have for that kind of book. I don't want to go too much into it.
I thought about doing a cozy fantasy about a necromancer because I'm like, that'd be kind of funny. And then someone's like, oh no, Andy Peliquin did it. And I was like, dang it. But yeah, I mean, I still could do it because, I mean, I don't think no one has a trademark on ideas, but that was a bit disappointing nonetheless.
Yeah. So I've got that one, or that's probably going to be, I mean, that could easily be a dozen books just in that world setting. Especially if I interlace different kinds of genres and with cozy, like I could do a horror fantasy thing. I've got that idea. I've got a standalone horror book. I kind of put ideas down for. My long time want is to do a sci-fi saga. I started writing that back in 10th grade, and it's changed multiple times over the years. Even recently, I've changed it. like same, like the base of it, the structure of it's the same, but like certain aspects just keep getting changed. Like I'm changing basically how it begins now, and I really like the path that is going on. But like all the stuff up until that magnum opus, so to speak, is really kind of a warm up to get to a series that I've been passionate about for crap, dude. 98. How many years is that? 26 years. So
Wow.
eventually I'll get to that.
That is a quarter of a century.
Yeah.
A little more than a quarter of a century.
Yeah. And I didn't really do anything seriously.
God, I feel old
for writing for a long time either. But I just kept making notes over time. I've got little notebooks. I just got little chicken scratch of ideas over the last couple decades. Just kind of kept building, and my wife's finally like, "Why don't you actually, write that? Why don't you do stuff?" So, eventually started with some short stories as warm ups. Then one of the short stories turned into Small Town Problems.
Yeah, I know when I wrote A Plague of Nightmares, I finally got around to it because one of my friends is like, basically, I was telling him, like, I was like, oh man, I just can't, like, find the effort. And he's finally just like, just write it, dude. Just do it. Right? Just don't excuse yourself. Just freaking write it. And I'm like, you know what? 1, fuck you. 2, I'm going to do it. So I just started, like, spite typing on my computer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did it. I was like, oh man, I did it. He's like, congrats. I let him edit the book. I even let him edit it. Well, the first draft anyway. Cool. He's very kind. Mm. Now I need to go over it again because there's some stuff I'm thinking about. I'm like, I shouldn't have changed that.
Yeah. So do you keep the previous drafts? You don't delete them, so you refer back to them? I
have the first draft. A lot of it's probably marked up because I let my friend, who was my editor, mark it up. But I think I still have it. I didn't realize how many times I said sighing in the book, so that was kind of funny. And also, Josh, if you watch this, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I said it that much. All right, just cut me a break there. He's just like, dude, you have to stop. I'm like, okay, sorry. Yeah. I don't know why. I didn't think it was that much, but then I looked through it. I'm like, geez, man, I used it a lot.
Yeah, that's one of those things you when you get done with it, and especially if you're writing on a computer program, it's easier to look at. But if you're writing by pen and paper, it's hard to calculate. Okay, how many times did I repeat this one word or this kind of reaction? How many times am I putting hands on hips or pulling my hair and things like that?
Yeah, no, it's fair. It's just when I wrote it, I was like, when I write, I generally am like, all right, I'm gonna get this thing on the page, and I'll worry about nitpicking it later. Because I know if I start just like, if I try to be careful about how I write, I'll never finish it because I keep because I have I just have this weird anxiety-ridden brain that just can't stop. So I'm like, all right, brain, you're gonna stop for a minute, and then after I'm done scrawling it, then you can do your thing.
Yeah,
it's very hard.
Oh yeah, and hopefully, like over time, you realize what your habits are. Like mine, my big thing is building a scene to where you're immersed in it. And adding those little details in, because I don't know if anybody watching knows this or not, but like back in 2021, when I first wrote my book or published it, I eventually sent it over to Daniel Greene in 2022, and he opened it when he was still doing the mail segments. Please, dear God, don't be a bomb, and he immediately opened the box and it's like, hey, it's a book from a goblin. I'm going to read this and review it. It's like, what? Like, I didn't mean for that to happen. Of course, Kayla had the same reaction of what? But that was like the first solid critique I had of the book, which was awesome. It was like both like awesome, but like sucks, because I think 55,000 people have seen that video.
Who sent the sent the indie book to him and he read it?
Yeah.
Oh, that was you?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh man, how did I not know it was you who did that? Wow, that's nuts. I didn't even realize. I'm sorry, man.
No, it's fine. It's kind of funny. Like now, I'm like going more with booktubers, and they're like, "Oh man, I remember that video." I'm like, well, I kind of wish you didn't almost, because like after then, like I had some beta readers, which you learn later on that like the kind of questions you need to ask beta readers, because there were concerns I had for how I was trying to do some things, relate some things, and they're like, "Oh man, no, it's fine. That sounds great." And like some of the biggest critiques were of those things that like I was questioning. So I should have maybe listened to myself a little bit more, but I was trying to differentiate myself a bit, and do something that wasn't like they give myself a little bit of a unique voice, so to speak. So I was experimenting, which you should do, but obviously there's extremes to that. And then he gave it like a 3 out of 10.
Ouch.
but he's like the thing that carried it through were the characters. He said it was genuinely funny, and just like the heart of it and things like that. That there was like really solid things at the core that made it a good story. But you need to go in. You need to give immersion details. There's a lot of dialogue. You need to put more stuff in there than just dialogue. So I added like 10,000 words to it, and then went to an editor. Then I got an illustrator and worked through that and released it in 2023. We re-released it in 2023. But man, that was that was a journey.
Sounds like it. It sounds like a surreal journey.
Yeah. And part of me is wondering, okay, am I going to recover from that? But I think I've done well. I think a lot of indie authors don't sell like more than a dozen books and things like that. I think I'm like in between the 2021 release to 2023 release, I'm over 100. Like just getting there, which is great. But I also have described the book as part of a trilogy, but it's going to be a duology now. The second book's going to be just a full-length novel. Because the more I thought about how I was going to break down the next two books, it's like that. I don't really feel comfortable with the cliffhanger I'm going to leave in the second book. So I'm just going to combine. And then that also gives me the ability to go more in depth on certain things, and really kind of tackle some issues a little bit better, I think. So we'll see. But I think so far it's turned out well. I started, after I wrote after I finished writing it, and in between sending it to Daniel, I had like written 5 chapters of the second book. And I had originally written in the same POV as the first book. But then after that book, or after I stopped doing that and went to completely revise the first book again after that video. But then I came back to the second book here within the last year, started reworking it and completely changed the POV over to the alien character. So it's all the other secondary character now. So completely rewrote those first 5 chapters, which took longer than I thought, because you've got to. It's not like just changing who's speaking; it's changing the reactions and all sorts of stuff. And then the moments where you're breaking away and staying with one character, you have to completely change that, and trying to flesh him out more of what his inner voice is. It's been a lot of fun, but it's been really challenging. But I think it's a lot better than it was. And I just started actually doing chapter 6 earlier this month. So the first actual new chapter to the book. Feeling really good about where it's at, but we'll see how long it takes to get there. And then I did contact my artist today and asked him if I could commission just a character portrait as well. So I want to do more illustrations in the book too. So that's some other things, some other goals I want to get into. So
yeah, well, man, that's one of the things been holding me
fun.
back from editing is because I'm like, I don't know if I want to put through the work of rewriting all this stuff. Because I rewrote some stuff, and I'm like, I don't really freaking like some of this stuff I've rewritten. I'm going to go back to the old one. I'm like, oh, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, I get critiques, and I'm like, oh, I should change it. And my editor is a good friend of mine. He's like, look, you don't have to change everything I say. You know, if you like it, keep it. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then I'm thinking about it now. I'm like, fuck, that's what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Yeah.
So I have to, yeah, it's probably going to be a couple, I think I still have the first drafts. It's probably just going to be some copy and pasting and making it make sense. So someone reads over and is like, what the hell is this? You just put this in there for, I'm like, oh, no, forgot to. So yeah, no. I started working on a Western novel. That's kind of stalled because I've gotten busy with stuff, but I'm hoping to get back to it soon. We'll see. And
is it a pure Western?
Yep.
Sweet.
It's a tribute to my grandma. And hopefully the second book of the fantasy thing I'm doing. So there you go. And then
awesome,
I'm going to figure out if I'm going to try and go for indie or if I'm going to give this traditional publishing a shot. Because, I don't know. Feel like, oh, you're young. And then there have been people who are like, oh, you'll waste your career if you do indie. And I'm like, well, I've seen Tori Tekken and Philip Chase doing it, and they seem to be doing okay. Though
Ryan Kyle, that dude seems to be all right.
Or what'd you say?
Ryan Kyle.
Oh, yeah, you know.
Just got a 6-year deal.
yeah, he seems to be doing okay. Though I know that's not
J.C. Burns doing good. I mean, there's a lot out there. I think a big thing is cultivating the audience and getting connections, and
it's also one of the reasons I started this channel back up so I could get some potential readers.
Yeah. I mean, just forming a community, you know, is huge. And I didn't do that before I, initially published. I did it afterwards, but I didn't do it before I did a re-release because I still didn't really understand because I was too focused on the craft itself and not all the stuff that goes with it. Man, just like I joined the SFF Insider Discord. They've got an author group in there. A lot of people in there. Really awesome people. That's one thing too. Is like just the community, indie community at large so far that I've come across with. Anyways, is just so willing to help everybody else because they want the entire, all boats to rise in this indie community. So they don't really see people as competition. They see them as colleagues, which is so awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, that's the thing. I'm like, well, with indie, I go on a bunch of YouTube channels and talk about my book, and I don't have to go through the song and dance and traditional. But then I'm like, oh man, I have a hard time making up my mind with things like this. So if you couldn't already tell,
yeah.
But I'm like, all right, if I'm gonna do indie, if I make up my mind and decide to do indie, I'm gonna see if I can make this YouTube thing work again. So maybe I can get some potential readers out of it. Well, I mean, that's not the only reason I did it, but that's one of them. It seems to be working out pretty good so far. I just need to get to 500 subs before the end of the year. Dang it.
Yeah. Man, I can't wait to see what you do for writing too, because I mean, a lot of your analysis in the books is so eloquent and like really
thank you.
Seems like the dive. It really seems like just dive in and grasp certain aspects of books and what makes them good and what makes them tick and the way in which you say it too. I don't know if you scripted it or it was all off the top of your head. But
I use bullet points and sometimes I'll ad lib, but I do write bullet points.
Okay. Well,
Because if
it
I just
sounds
start
great,
rambling, it'll just I hate watching I got rid of those old videos, but I made some old videos where it was just me going off the cuff, and it was just I don't prefer thinking about them. I don't like thinking about them very much. I think my new ones are a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but man, I think whenever you get your book out, that's going to be really like awesome to read, and just I can just picture the way you do these videos and like how you talk about books as the voice in the book, and just can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, I hope it's good. I mean, it's a book I'm quite pleased with, believe it or not. Which I hope that's not a bad sign. It's gonna suck if I'm like, you know what, this is pretty good. I did okay here, but we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, other people will agree.
Well, you've got to be happy with your own book.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, if you're not happy with your own book,
why are you putting it out? I saw how many like sighs there were. I'm like, okay, there are problems, but mostly I'm okay with this. Like I'm all right with it.
Yeah. Oh, man. Do you let your family read it?
I let my dad read it. Hopefully my dad and I will look through the other drafts that I have right now. So we'll see how that goes. I was a little wary at first because I'm like, geez, I don't know if my dad is even gonna know what I'm talking about here. But I talked with a friend of mine about it. He's like, hey, maybe that's a good thing. I'm like, you know what? Why not? I'll let him read it and see what he thinks. And yeah, we just need to go through it again.
That's cool. Yeah.
So yeah, no.
Yeah, my mom read mine. So yep, and she liked it, which is one of the things of okay, but you're my mom. But I started writing it out actually chapter by chapter and putting it out on my website, and just trying that path for a while, which is really interesting because like the first person who made a comment on it was a lady from Kenya. And I was like, oh, all right, and started conversing with her a bit, and it's interesting once you realize I'm not just like talking to like random people possibly in the U.S. This is like the internet; it's worldwide. And like the first book sales, whenever I published it, were like in Germany. Like I don't know, just little things like that. Maybe not little thing, but I mean things like that are just like, what am I doing? How am I?
Yeah,
getting a hold of people on the other side of the world.
Yeah, apparently NaNoWriMo's gonna be a thing. So I don't do that because I don't I just it's like these free writing things I do in creative writing. I just hate doing them. I hate feeling like I'm
obligated.
Oh, sorry. My dog is whining at me. What do you want, dog? What do you want, Alexis? Come here. She don't want to come here at the moment. Hold on real quick.
All right.
All right, sorry about that. Might cut that out later.
Yeah, that's why my door shut. Otherwise, I'd have a cat up here.
Oh, my cat, I can deal with. It's my dog.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh boy. What was I talking about?
NaNoWriMo.
Oh yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's like free writing. It's like I don't like. I hate feeling like I'm writing on the spot. I like to mull it over. I like to think about it. Maybe too much, but we all got a process.
Yeah. I don't know. I think free writing is great for just kind of figuring out, just getting ideas out there, just getting pen to paper, especially if you're stuck.
Yeah.
There's been times where it's just start like telling a story from. It's like, okay, I'm gonna be a World War II vet, and just kind of get in that mindset and just start writing stuff and just kind of letting things flow, and it alters and changes as like some little idea catches you, or yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of good in it, but obviously everybody has their own process, which is important to understand your process.
Yeah, I mean, I hope I'm not like, oh God, like I've heard of some writers who've taken like 20 years to put a book out. I don't want to do that, but I generally like to think things out at least a little bit before I at least like to have the beginning and the end in mind before I move forward. Because if I don't have those, then I just feel like I'm floating around in space,
So you consider yourself a plotter then?
It's weird. I would call it like plantsing, because I've tried just like plotting it out and then writing it, but I'm just impatient. So like I'll plot some of it and then I'll type it out and I'll just kind of go from chapter to chapter, and it's like I remember when I was writing what?
Oh, just like making bullet points, kind of thing.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Where I make like bullet points, I summarize the chapter, and then I write it.
Yeah.
I'll do a couple chapters at a time, even. And I mean, it worked for me, though. I was kind of, it worked out because I got it down. So there you go.
Yeah.
I was reading it took like 6 months for me to do A Plague of Nightmares, and then I finally got that, and yeah, it's fun. But yeah, I've kind of stalled out because like again, just stuff's been coming up, and just general lethargy. It's just been it's been a year, is all I'll say. It's been a year. I don't know how it's been for you, but it's been kind of crazy on my end.
Oh yeah, but I had like hand surgery earlier this year.
Don't tell me.
And I had some.
Don't give me that like grumpy older man rant about if I can do it with my hand surgery, so can you. I don't.
No, I didn't do it during my hand surgery.
Okay, good. I was like, I didn't want to hear that today. But
no, I mainly on the keyboard typing. I don't do pen and paper. I had a shoulder surgery way back in like 2003 as well, so
oh dear,
it makes it hard for me to hold the pen for like a long period of time. So it's all keyboard for me.
Fair enough. Yeah, I used a keyboard. I actually wrote a couple of my first stories like by hand, but I'm like that's just it hurts your hand after a while, so I just stopped doing that.
Yeah.
Luckily,
yeah, it's easier to edit too whenever you type it.
Yeah. No, I can't be James Elroy, who allegedly writes on like one of those lawyer pads. I'm like, how the hell do you do that? Though he could be trolling. He is prone to do that, so I don't know. But if he really does write like that, I don't know how the hell he would do that, how he transcribes that on a computer.
Man. I mean, they could treat it like your first draft. I mean, I know of stories of people doing that. They handwrite it and then they transcribe it onto a computer as their first draft. So they catch a bunch of stuff and really get to mull over it and things like that as they transcribe. But it's at least all down on paper.
Yes. Sorry, I'm having a friend.
Do you just mainly work on like books, or do you like short stories or poems or anything like that?
I have done short stories and poetry, but I've realized I like long form storytelling more than anything else. I've even tried my hand at comics and failed spectacularly because I'm a broke son of a bitch. And there's also a thing I'm trying to put together for comics, and it's been working like a snail. We just now got an LLC, at least the guy who's running it. It just recently got an LLC. We'll see where that goes, but hell, I'm trying. I'll try and be vague because I don't know if I'm even supposed to talk about it at this point. But there you go.
Yeah, man, those are just like such varying skill sets too.
Oh my gosh, yeah. He taught me how to. The guy who's doing this LLC thing taught me how to, panel and stuff. It's a
Mhm.
it's a different animal than like writing a book. I wrote a book when I was 14, 15 years old, which was basically like a Walking Dead fan fiction. It was absolutely dreadful. I don't like thinking about it.
Oh
Though
man,
I am considering at some point kind of returning back to that and doing something else with that idea because, let no idea go to waste, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, my first major foray into to any kind of serious writing was fanfic. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. Kind of taking that medium and develop your own stories within it. Um, I had one of the co-webmasters that was also one of the co-authors as well used to like give me little writing challenges, and I would just like give me a prompt, and I would write out some little silly story. Like my character in that was in that fanfic was a court jester,
Mm.
and also Jedi trained, but kind of went away from that because of PTSD kind of stuff. Um, but he had a rubber chicken, was a kind of coping mechanism, which kind of played a little bit throughout the story and kind of hit where he hit his lightsaber and stuff. Um, but also did a like an offshoot of that as a character in like a Rubber Chicken Empire kind of thing, offshoot for fun, and then did she asked me to do a story about mutant trees, and there's all sorts of things. I've probably got them written down somewhere here still, but
Yeah, I have a
there's
hard
all
time with
sorts of.
prompts too, though. I have considered because with the fantasy I'm working on, it's kind of based on that. It's not really sword and sorcery; it's kind of its own thing, but it kind of pulls from that model a little bit. So I've thought about writing short stories in that world, and we'll see how that goes. Maybe I can use some prompts for that, but I'm generally bad at
Yeah,
those too. Because again,
yeah,
I like being more structured in my writing. If you couldn't tell.
yeah, not bad. I know Brandon Sanderson has a hard time with short stories too. But going from volumes down to a short story for somebody that with that mindset is, it's understandable. Um, I think I like doing short stories too, but they're definitely more difficult because you want to fit so much into just that short span. Um, like I think the last one I did JCM Byrne does I think it's Grimdorf or
Oh
Grimdark
yeah, I thought about writing for
magazine.
that. I just couldn't come up with anything because again,
Yeah,
I'm just if he
yeah, I
brings
did.
that back, maybe I'll get something to him.
Yeah, I got one in for him on that. It was about a retired or general.
I thought you
Um,
said retarded.
but
I'm like, dude, that's
no,
that's not a good word
retired.
anymore.
Yeah, enunciation at the end of the night, dry mouth.
Yeah, it's fair.
But
Yeah. Eh.
yeah, so that was fun. But that's also I also kind of took that as an opportunity to kind of develop a character because that's going to be a character that's in both the prequel and sequel series for that fantasy world I was talking about earlier.
Oh.
Going to be younger years and older years, and this is kind of like in the in between period for when that short story takes place. So
I will say one I would like to do. I don't know when I'm gonna do it, but I'd like to. It's kind of a riff. You've ever seen the Pinocchio movie, the animated one, the old Disney one?
oh yeah.
There's that circus in
Mhm.
that I want to do something playing with that with my character. So yeah, where he basically wreaks revenge on the people who do that. So I hope I do that story one day. It would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because I always got real frustrated that guy never got like comeuppance for turning those kids into donkeys. I was just like, I'm gonna write about that.
Okay,
I
it's
think
an
it'd be
idea.
anyway. Sorry, I'm not gonna try and spoil it, but that's something I would like to do in the future. Also, it's good. It's a good place to get ideas. Like, what irritated you, and like, what are like good things? Like, what are things and like stuff you've watched or read that irritated you, and you're like, oh, I could do that better, or
Yeah.
here's how I do it, and then that's always fun.
I mean, there's so much that we read that's born from that, and we don't even realize it until we watch like an author interview. They're like, there was this one thing I watched, or this one thing I read. Happens all the time, man.
Yeah,
and we don't even realize it.
I'm sure even Brandon Sanderson was like, "Oh yeah, that's how I do it." I think Patrick Rothfuss did it for a Roald Dahl book at one point, and it really irritated a friend of mine. He was like, "You just missed the point of the book." But I haven't read Patrick Rothfuss, so I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't either. I eventually may get to him, but we'll see.
Maybe someday. You'd think it wouldn't be that hard getting the third book out. It's not like George R. R. Martin. He has 2 freaking books to do. Or Scott Lynch, who has like 4 more books to do. Though he's younger than George R. R. Martin, so he has a little more time. But it's one book. It's one book, Patrick. And look, I get it. I understand you're kind of nervous about the reception and whatnot, or, maybe just not feeling it that day. Maybe you want to do other things. But come on, man. It's one book.
Yeah, maybe and if you're a full-time writer...
Though I say that, and one day I'll be in that same situation. I'm like, God, that bit me in the ass right there. So, hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, just part of me is like, you're a full-time writer. I mean, surely you can chip away at this every day. I don't know. Maybe there's some other stuff that we're just not privy to that's kind of making them hold up. But, at some point, dude.
Yeah, though, George R. R. Martin's case, it's a mixture of just, oh, Lord. Yeah. I don't envy him the situation he's in right now. Like people were like, he was talking about how like he's kind of struggling because state of the country. So, I mean, I won't get too political here, but he was talking about like the state of the country, and I'm like, and people were complaining about that. I'm like, dude, just let him vent. We're having a hard time as it is.
Yeah, I guess at a certain level, though, the state of the country is not going to affect you.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, no.
Like, nothing about his life's going to change regardless of who gets elected.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
It's going to matter to, like, people like you and me, but not somebody who's millions of dollars, worth millions of dollars.
Yeah, like, there's some people who, like, do just assume that George is just, like, sitting on his laurels now, and I'm like, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt here, but I don't know. I don't know. I hope not.
Yeah.
I mean, he put out Fire and Blood, and the first half of that was pretty good, and then the second half just drug. I was just like, oh my god. It's basically a fake history book about the Targaryens. So, oh yeah, you haven't read A Song of Ice and Fire. I won't go on my Game of Thrones rant. Like, there are the 2 rabbit holes I try to avoid at all costs. There's the Star Wars one, and then there's the Game of Thrones one. Like, I feel very passionately about both of those. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm there with you on the Star Wars. So.
Like, a lot of people really love Lord of the Rings. Like, I like Lord of the Rings. I appreciate it a lot, but it's not one where I'm like, yeah, oh, that lore. Oh, I mean, I like Lord of the Rings a lot, but it's not one I get, like... It's not one where I really deep dive into the lore,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you are with that, but...
Oh, man, I love diving into lore.
Yeah, I'm a lore nut. I'm a lore nut.
Even though I haven't read a lot of, like, the extended canon and things like that, going back to Star Wars, there were books they put out that were just like the history of Star Wars, and like everything goes on, and it went throughout all the canon books and kind of like, here's history of the galaxy back in this time. This is all the chain of events and things that happen. Love that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also like watching videos. Have you ever watched, like, I don't know, I mean, I know you watch BookTube, but I don't know how much other YouTube you watch aside from that. Have you ever watched, like, Civilization X before?
Not that I can think of.
Oh, I was about to say, like, most of his channel is doing, like, lore stuff for, like, Game of Thrones, Star Wars. It's very good. It's very good. I enjoyed a
It's
lot.
cool. I'll have to check that out. Yeah. Well, I don't know if you want to geek out a little bit, but I do have other like keep going back to Star Wars. Like I did a little video here a little bit ago for unboxing for some books I got in to sip out, but like some of the things I've got like a little thermal detonator.
Oh,
Signed by Carrie Fisher.
well, wow, that is nuts.
We got.
Well, you're a much bigger Star Wars fan than I am. I have a hard time like I have a hard time justifying myself like getting a bunch of money to spend on like things like that.
Yeah. This is like years ago too when I didn't have a family.
Yeah.
So I've got an X-wing down here, Mark Hamill signed, Mark Hamill lightsaber, Ray Park lightsaber.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. That looked pretty cool.
One. But man, I got all that a while ago when I didn't have a family.
Fair enough.
You're
living that single life. I mean, I'm a broke college student, or well, I mean, broke. I mean, I have money, but I've been very fortunate, but like, I just have a hard time being like, look, I love this stuff, but like, it's like $900. I don't know if I can, Which, hey, nothing wrong with you if you do that. I mean, hey, I'm very impressed that you got all that stuff together. I'm like, damn, dude.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed. I will never deny your nerd card, sir.
Well, I joined the Navy after high school. So going on deployments, going on deployments, not spending money, and coming home and be like, well, I've maxed out my Roth. What can I spend money on?
You know what? That's fair. I have a friend who's in the Navy right now, so he's he actually lived down the street from me for a while. He's in Washington though. I don't know if he'll come back here. I don't know if he has the love for Oklahoma like I do, and I guess you do as well, because I mean, you moved back after. Because I saw you were in the Navy, which, by the way, thank you for your service. But, I mean, I don't know what you did, but thank you for your service.
I was a nuclear machinist, mate.
Oh, okay.
Nothing I thought I was even like geared to do. When going through high school towards the end of it, I wanted to go into law.
Oh.
I wanted to be a lawyer. I was actually enrolled in pre-law at TU. Before I changed my mind and went to the Navy instead. So
yeah, my mother really likes law-related stuff. Though I took a media law class this summer, and let me tell you right now, it has deterred me from ever being a lawyer. Because like my teacher, who is a lawyer, he's like, this is only a fraction of what you do in law school. I'm like, well, good thing I'm not going to become a lawyer anytime soon. What's that sword you got back there? One.
Which one?
The one on the right, on my right. It has like the red thing on it. It's like right behind you.
Oh my gosh! Not up here?
No, it's on your other side.
No, okay. Like way back here?
Yeah, that one.
All right. You have to tell me when to stop.
Stop. It's on your right, or maybe it's on like your left.
Am I touching it here?
No, it's on the green wall.
Green? Oh.
Yeah, that one. I like fantasy. I like fantasy swords. Sorry, I had to ask.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. My friend and I also used to kind of get us each other swords back in the day.
Oh. Well, I mean, what is it though?
Oh, it's just a broadsword.
Oh, okay.
There we go. You want fantasy style stuff though? Hold on a second.
I think the other ones are katanas. Are those?
Yeah, I got some katanas out there.
Oh,
this little dagger.
Oh, it's a little. Yeah, I see that. It's a little dagger.
And then I got a couple other. Oh, I was grab one for now, but
Oh, another
fantasy
one.
sword stuff.
That looks a little. Is that real?
No, well, I mean it's metal and everything.
No, I mean, is it sharp?
Like it's not sharp.
Oh,
No,
okay.
it's not sharp.
Okay.
It's
I thought
I mean,
not. But...
It's a little bit, but not like really. Bring that back up. Oh yeah, man, I love fantasy stuff like all sorts of little
I like
dragon
fantasy
sculptures.
I mean, I
Got a
try
bunch of
to.
these little things.
I mean, I've tried avoiding some more like fantasy tropes in my work, but I really love like fantasy swords. You know, like Stormbringer.
Oh yeah.
Like I love that stuff.
Oh yeah.
You know, just like Game of Thrones has Dawn and Ice. Great stuff. I love it.
Yeah, any kind of sword that's got a history to it, even if it's like not magical, it's just like been in the family and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Love it.
Like one of my favorite fantasy tropes is like the named sword. You know, like Stormbringer, for instance. You know.
Yeah.
Or Dawn. That's from Game of Thrones. Or I'm sure there's other ones I'm not thinking of at the moment.
Yeah, there's so many.
There's a lot. Yeah, you could. Yeah, I mean, you could name them. I'm sure there's some of them I'm probably missing. Or like Jedi. I like swordsmen. I guess. Just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, what was that back in the day? Wushu? Yeah, a little bit of like up my geek car a little bit more. My friend and I back in high school were going to do like a little fan Star Wars movie. So we had somebody that was teaching us some fencing and wushu as part of that. We had like a script and everything. I think I probably still got it somewhere, but we never ended up shooting it. But we did pictures and then put FX on them for holding lightsabers or costumes and stuff, but never really took off.
That's fair. I mean, I've done those too. I've had like big projects. I'm like, oh man, we're gonna do it, and then we got like an episode or two if we were lucky. So yeah, there you go. But yeah, no, I mean, Excalibur. I mean, I'm not a big King Arthur guy, but I love that sword.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I do have a fantasy series I want to do that's a take on Arthurian legend too. But
there's plenty to pull from. I mean, Gawain and the Green Knight, and well, there's La Morte d'Arthur, which I haven't read. I have had friends who have, and they love it because they're much bigger Arthur fans than I am. I have read Gawain and the Green Knight, though, because I watched the movie a few years ago that recently came out, which I really enjoyed. And then I read the book, or I read the original story. I'm like, oh, this is pretty fun. So I'm softening on King Arthur, but it's not really as much my thing. Like Norse myth, like give me that any day of the week. I will jump on it.
Yeah, just the whole sword and sorcery thing has always been a love. So
yeah, no, it's I'm like what we need in fantasy. We need a dude who's gonna take out his eyeball and hang himself to gain more knowledge. Like that'll be peak fantasy. Like I'm giving 5 stars to that.
Yep.
Yeah,
like
come on. We need some
kind of sacrifice for that.
We need some weird stuff like that, because if we don't, we're just they don't know what they're doing. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it also dips into that idea that knowledge comes at a cost.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just freely given.
Mm-hmm.
Which I like that trope. So.
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, and yeah, it's just it's. I mean, I'm sure maybe it happens in Arthur, but I'm not. Admittedly, I'm not the most familiar with. I just
I've got to dig into that too.
I just know Arthur pulls it out of the stone. He has like a kid, and then the kid it turns out the kid's evil. The knight bangs his wife. Fun stuff like that.
Yeah. Just kind of the more pop culture references for for that area
Yeah.
for me.
So if the
A little bit of
hardcore
lore every once
Arthur
in a while.
fans are just gonna wince
Mhm.
in disgust, I apologize.
Yeah, yeah. The series I want to do is like descendants of. It's not like at the time of Arthur.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm sure you could do that. I think other people have done that.
Mm,
I mean,
yeah, but a little more freedom to do a little more things. But it's again, that's something I'll have to really dive into. I don't want to do anything that's too crazy outside the lore. So that's going to be like a big research project.
it's fair. That's fair. That's fair. I mean, same thing if I did like a Norse saga. I'd be like, oh my god. One of my things for my fantasy I'm doing, like, because I'm really kind of taking from Native American myth as much as because basically it's a magical version of colonial America. So yeah, the research for the Native American stuff has been fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good way to put it. It's also kind
you
of
have a lot
tough
of
because
resources in Oklahoma.
there's not a lot of great, like, I haven't heard of a lot of good books about that, but yes, in Oklahoma it's easier to find. So there you go. But yeah, no. Well, I am getting really hungry. My stomach's kind of gurgling at me, but I appreciate you coming on and hanging out with me for a little while and talking craft and books and whatnot. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thanks for
If
having me.
No problem. If you haven't, as I like to say before I end these things, if you have any social media, feel free to talk about it. I'm sorry, my
Okay.
phone.
My Twitter is at author C Ritchie. My website is gestureslibrary.com. Gestures always been my kind of online moniker since I was 16. Um, so those are like the major things, and I've got other links and stuff on my bio and my website. So you can find some short stories and poems on the website. I've got some other links to outside media too. I've had a short story that was published in an anthology. Then earlier this year, I had a short story that was put on a podcast, and they did an audio where somebody read it, which was pretty cool to like hear your stuff put in different mediums for the first time. So got all that on my website if people want to check that out.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It's been a while since I've recorded one because, as I've been saying recently, just so much stuff's been going down. But thank you, Chris, for coming on and being patient with me. And, well, until next time.
My pleasure.